Hi again. This is the second video of the tutorial Web Scraping. That's a tutorial in the course Digital Economy and Data Analytics. Hi, my name is Eikman Vuren, and in the previous video we have already looked at a very short introduction to web scraping. But now the question that arises, how are we going to do web scraping? Well, the first element that we in fact need at the moment that we would like to do web scraping is that we need a website that we want to scrape, of course. But then what we need to do is to investigate that particular website. Well, apart from just looking at that website itself, how it looks like and what kind of information is available on that particular website, another thing that we in fact need to do is to look at the code into that particular website. Now, you might already know that the main code that is usually used in a particular website is HTML. That is to say that it's the only code that is used at the moment that we are going to look at so-called static websites. Apart from static websites, you also have dynamic websites that also contain or also have HTML code. But apart from that, they also have another part, which is the dynamic part of those websites, and that is a script, that is JavaScript. Today I'm only going to talk about static websites, and the reason behind that is because of the fact that first of all, at the moment that I'm going to look at dynamic websites, then I also need to look at, say, JavaScript, and I actually don't have the time to discuss all of that. And another reason, and that's maybe the most important reason why I'm going to look here at static websites, is that I actually found out that most of the practical situations in which you would like to do web scraping, well, it is enough to know something about static websites. Most, say, websites that are interesting for web scraping are in fact static and they're not dynamic. So that's the reason why we are here going to look at static websites, and that implies that the main thing that we have to investigate is the HTML code. Well, take into account that this, say, course or this tutorial is not really about HTML. So even if you have never seen HTML before, well, I'm not going to talk too much about it. We're going to look a little bit into the basics of it, but I will actually very roughly go through the HTML. So you don't need to know that much of HTML code in order to follow the things that I'm going to say next. Well, but before we are actually going to do any kind of web scraping, it's good to investigate our HTML code a little bit. Question, of course, arises how we're able to do that. Well, one thing that we could do is that we could look at the so-called web developer tools in your browser. Every browser, whether it's Google Chrome or Firefox, or maybe you're using an Apple and you're using Safari, it could be possible that then it's always the case that you are going to have the so-called web developer tools. You can find them from the menu of your browser. However, you can also use shortcuts with respect to that, because of the fact that one thing you can do is, at the moment that you use a Mac, is that you can use the Mac button, that's this thing that we have over here, plus an Alt and I, and then you will immediately get the so-called web developer tools. So on the next slide, I will show you what that actually implies. Apart from that, at the moment that you're using Linux, or maybe you're even using Windows, well, at that moment in time, you could use Ctrl-Shift-I in order to also get those web developer tools. But the question, of course, arises, what are web developer tools? Well, in that sense, it's good to go to the next slide. Here we actually have a print screen. It's actually based on my print screen, and because of the fact that I'm using Linux, I actually have here a Linux setup over here, and we are looking at a particular website. In this case, this is the website that we are going to look at mainly during this tutorial of today. And it's actually a website that comes from real Python, and the website is actually called Fake Python or Fake Python Jobs. What we're going to do today is that we're not really going to look at the real, say, website, or at least at this moment in time, we're not really going to look at a real website yet, but we're going to make it ourselves a little bit simpler by looking at a website which is not for real, but is actually just made in order to learn a little bit about, say, web scraping. And the content of that particular website is that it actually does have job ads, not real job ads. They're fake job ads, so therefore that's the reason why this is called fake Python. They're not real job ads that you can actually apply for, but they're just in order to be able to understand a little bit the idea behind web scraping. So this part that we have over here is not just the web developer tools. This is just the website itself, and we do already see that well, we can get some information from the different jobs that are listed over here because of the fact that this is the first job ad on that particular website, and it does have a couple of things that are interesting to scrape, of course. For example, the name of the particular job ad. So in this case, a senior Python developer that is well demanded. We also have the company that is related to that particular job ad. That is this Payne, Roberts and Davis that we have over here. And also we have the place or the location of the particular say company, that this company that we have over here. And well, we even have say the date on which it's published. And we could actually in the end, but we are going to come back to that later on, we can even get say a direct link to the job ad itself. So you should realize that in our list, this is going to be now our first job ad. Well, there are more job ads actually placed on this website, and we can see a couple of them already here because this is now going to be the second job ad. It's asking for an energy engineering, and also here we have the name of the company, well, the location and the date at which it actually was placed. Well, we should realize that we have here two more actually, a legal executive and a fitness center manager who are in fact demanded, but we should take into account, and that you can actually not see from this print screen, that there are many more of these job ads. It's not just 4 of them, there are more than 100 of them. If you go to the website itself, then you will actually find out that there are many different job ads that we can actually scrape in this case. But apart from the fact that we can of course look at, say, the job or the website itself, what we can do as well is that we can also look at the so-called web developer tools. These are these web developer tools that you get by using the things that I had placed at the previous slide. And then one thing that we can immediately see then is that we have here at the left hand side we have HTML code. Well, probably you will not be able to read that so well, so therefore on the next slide I actually have here the HTML code listed. Well, a nice thing with respect to HTML code is that it's actually quite easy to read because of the fact that one of the things that we see here immediately, apart from the fact that we have here a so-called head, we also see something here which is in fact the title of the page, and that actually says fake Python. That's exactly the same fake Python that we have over here. So it's already clear that well, some of the information that we have on this particular website is also listed in our HTML code. Also here we see fake jobs for your web scraping journey, and also that is written down over here. But more important actually is the information related to the different job ads. Actually here we see that the senior Python developer, and that's also the thing that we wanted or that we have seen over here. And take into account that that's exactly the information that we actually would like to scrape. This is information that we would like to scrape, but apart from that we do not only want to have, say, the title or the title of the particular job ad, but we also would like to have the company. And if we are going to go a little bit more down here, then we can also see that there is actually, for example, the location of the particular company as well as the date on which it was listed. And even we see here that there are here two links related to the 2 buttons that we had at the previous slide. And well, one actually goes directly to real Python itself. That's not that interesting. But another one that says apply, the button that says apply, actually also has the particular link to the particular job ad that we were interested in. So if we would like to go back, then we actually see over here that here we actually have these two buttons. Here we have learn and apply. And if we would have clicked on this apply over here, then we would have gone to that particular website that we have seen. So that implies that based on this, we can already get the information from the HTML code. The question, of course, still rises how we're going to do that. From the HTML code, we can directly get the information. Of course, one way we could have done this is by simply doing copy paste, but that's not what we are going to do in the end. Of course, we're going to try to use Python for this. Take into account that it's not just this job ad that we have over here, but we have more job ads because of the fact that if we scroll down more, well, I haven't done all the listing, but here we have the second job ad, this energy engineer, and here we actually do have the the company that is related to it, and here the place of that particular company, we also have it over here. So based on this, we do already get an idea of how this HTML code looks like, and what we actually need from the HTML code to be able to do our web scraping journey. So let's go on, and as I already said, I haven't done all the listing. I just stopped at a particular moment in time. But now the question arises, how do we actually get this HTML code into Python? Well, for that we have a very nice library, and that's the request library. So we do already know how to get a particular library because of the fact that then what we can do is that we can then import requests, and take also into account that this might actually imply that you have to install, of course, this request library in your Python package. But I'm not going to go into details here in order to how you can actually get that you have to do yourself. But then if we have imported it, then the first thing that we need to do is that we have to ask ourselves the question, which website do we actually want to import? Which website do we actually want to have in our Python program? Well, for that we need the so-called URL, and the URL is actually nothing else as the website that we were just looking at, the website that is related to the Python code that we have over here. So in order to go all the way actually to the beginning, and in fact even more than that, what we should do is go back to this print screen that we have over here. This is the URL that we are interested in. So therefore, the first thing that we are going to do with respect to our, web scraping is writing down the URL that we are interested in. And that's exactly what I do over here. So here I make a string of the URL that we have. It's just a copy paste from, in fact, the browser that we have just been looking at. Well, then the next thing that we can do is that we can then import, in fact, the URL code, and we're going to do that by request. It implies that we're going to create a variable that I now call page, and then we are going to do requests, and we are going to use a particular function of request, and that is get. And the only thing that we need to do is to indicate which website we would like to get our HTML code of, and that is this URL that I have just introduced. And then the next thing that we can do is that we can then print, page its text, and that will just give me a string, and that's exactly, in fact, the HTML code that we had at the previous slide. So then I will get this HTML code over here. Take into account, as I already said, here I just stopped it at a particular moment in time with respect to the listing, but take into account that you will get actually a lot more than what I have just printed on the previous slides.